agree, man. I agree 100%. I like that place a lot. I like the vibe. I like that if you went on the right day, they would give you the option to order the chef's experiment. And you could just get the chef's experiment for like $3 or whatever. And it's like literally whatever the chef is working on and like wants to try it. And you get a little questionnaire afterwards. Like, did you like it?
Yeah, that was super cool. I don't know, like every time I pass by that Tilted Kilt / Miss Saigon, I think of that and how it makes me sad that it's not there anymore.
It really does. If Zenobia ever wants to make her own restaurant, I'll be an investor. I'll invest in her dessert parlor.
It's a great time for restaurants, you know? A lot of money out there.
I feel like it's a good time to start setting up a restaurant, though.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I feel like it must be incredibly hard to operate any sort of business at the moment that requires like an in-person anything.
That's true. I meant more like, like finding a location, getting it all set up, getting all the equipment, training staff, like all that you could probably do now because there's so much downtime.
Yeah. I've always had this dream of opening a food truck that just sold eggs and coffee, like egg related items and coffee. And for whatever dumbass reason, I was always like, the coffee is going to be sold either black or Joseph's way, and then it's going to have like my favorite type of Stumptown coffee with some cream and some sugar, but like very specific ratio. And it's like, if you don't like anything else, whatever, make it yourself, get it black. But the only creamer I'll put in is my way. Some bullshit. But like, I don't know. I just love eggs and coffee, so it seemed perfect for me.
I know for sure at your bachelor party, I'm going to have to bring like 3 dozen eggs. So.
Oh yeah. That's just for the first night.
If we eat 3 dozen eggs in a night, there's only like 6 of us. Somebody's dying. Their cholesterol is just going to spike and they're going to instantly die.
That's the crazy bachelor party stories. You fucking overdosed on eggs.
My money is on you or Alex overdosing on eggs, straight up.
Definitely me. Have you ever had like what's your regular amount of eggs when you make an egg-based meal?
Between 3 and 5.
3 and you make okay. So you put 5 eggs in one single. I'm going to eat this in one sitting thing, like an omelet, or what's the
scrambled egg? You butter 5 eggs, scramble, melt cheese into it, second scramble, throw it on your plate. 4 pieces of toast, 1 cup of tea, and then water.
So you're saying that's a lot. That's a lot of fucking eggs, my friend.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you'll eat 5 eggs, but 6 would kill a man. So you're gambling with your life every time.
I don't eat that regularly. I'm not saying I eat that regularly. I eat that if I know I'm not going to eat lunch because it's so heavy. That's like a lot of food and a lot of protein and a lot of carbs. So you'll be good for a long time.
I was gonna say my max is 4. Like my comfortable max is 4. So
that's
impressive.
That's your comfortable, right? That's if you know like other food is coming. But if I told you, Joseph, you only get 1 meal and it has to be egg based, you're gonna eat like a dozen eggs.
Yeah, probably. I need something else in the eggs, like like a piece of bread or something. Like I can't just eat 6 scrambled eggs. I feel like I would lose my mind because the texture would make me go crazy.
I see. Okay, well, I have something I'll bring up at the end of this podcast, but for now, hello everyone, welcome to the newly reorganized episode 71 of the Homegames podcast. I'm Yazeed, and this is Joseph.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and today is Monday, March 1st, 2021. Today, for Homegames stuff, we're talking about vision, the ability for things to see other things in Homegames.
That's correct. But before we get into that, Joseph, how's it going? What's new? What's happening?
Oh, not much is new or happening, really. It was my week off of Homegames stuff, so I kind of was just doing nothing intentionally. But I didn't have like a relaxing vacation like I did a month or 2 ago when I took a vacation. It was kind of just like be stressed out about everything that's not Homegames. So don't really have any like rejuvenated, refreshed type things to bring you. I just rewatched Silicon Valley, basically, almost from the beginning to almost the end. So I'm on the final season, rewatching that show, and I've made it through 3 seasons basically in about 2 weeks. Like I've been watching it since before, so I'm not like a super crazy person. But it's interesting because that show I think is better watching it again because I know where it ends. And I think when I first watched that show, like without spoilers, when I first watched Silicon Valley, I was frustrated constantly by the main character fucking up every opportunity that the company got, or everything that was good would be ruined by this one main character. And so like the whole show, you want them to win and then kind of succeed and kind of get beyond this hurdle. And I remember watching or reading an interview with one of the people who make the show. I think it might have been Mike Judge or someone else like related. Anyway, when the show was still on, talking about this need to kind of keep the character down, otherwise the show isn't interesting. Like if they win this whole thing, then like what's the show about? Because the whole show is about like this struggle of Silicon Valley bullshit and running into these problems. So basically they can never win. And so if you view the comedy of the show outside of the like investment in trying to make the main character do a good thing, like the show is a lot better. Some of the jokes are still kind of shitty and stupid or whatever, but the show is still really good. And yeah, I'm still a fan of Silicon Valley. It's a great show.
Did you watch any more of The Sopranos also?
Yeah, we're on season 4 of that finally, but it's
That's a lot of seasons to cover. Last time we talked, I think you're on like season 2.
Yeah, we kind of moved through to season 3 pretty quickly because it was a little slow, so we just kind of powered through it quickly. And yeah, and there were some, like I mentioned, there were some intense scenes in season 3 that kind of made us just like, ugh. So we kind of just wanted to get through everything instead of letting it soak in. Anyway, yeah, we just got to season 4. Show is like kind of different now, and a little bit the tone shifted, be a little bit more like, it feels like early 2000s. Like it feels like if the mindset that made Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like the games, like also made The Sopranos. Like there's something about the way it is. I can't really describe it. But
they play like garage rock or whatever. What do you mean?
No, I don't. Maybe it's just like in the way that they make the teenage characters, like the kids, because they wear like early 2000s bands and just have that whole kind of style. Because Tony, as a main character, like he doesn't really have a of the moment style. It's kind of like a timeless classic thing where he'll wear like a turtleneck or a button up or a suit or whatever, and those things aren't so dated. But the kids will wear the shit that's popular. And when you see like a 2002 outfit, it's hilarious. Like, doesn't matter what it is, but it's hilarious. So basically that's, I think, what it is. But then also some of the attitude of those kids, I think, is just like that time period. So it just feels like it, I guess. But it's good. I don't love it as much as I did the first season because it's just a lot of the novelty of everything and all the characters and everything is kind of just wearing off. And I know there are certain things in the story that happened that I remember from before, and I'm like, okay, I know these things happen to these characters, and I'm kind of just waiting for it to happen because this stuff isn't super, super interesting. Like, I know where it goes. Maybe that's kind of my fault, but yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you are rewatching this show, so
yeah,
this is why I don't rewatch stuff.
Yeah, but like with Silicon Valley, you get a nice, if you watch it again from the beginning, knowing how it ends, you get a better perspective kind of on the show overall. I have that a lot with How I Met Your Mother. I really hated the ending of How I Met Your Mother the first time I watched it. I don't know if you're familiar with the way that show ends, but spoiler alert.
Never mind, go ahead and finish your thought.
The mother's dead the entire show. The whole show is him talking about How I Met Your Mother because the mother's dead. Like, it makes sense. That's why he's talking for 8 years. But like the show kind of keeps building up to this moment of meeting the mother, and you're like, oh wow, happy ending. But like the reality of it is that shit's sad and whatever, right? Like things happen, and so that's the real ending of the thing. It's just him telling his kids how he met their mother. But watching it again from the beginning and all the little things they kind of pepper in throughout the entire show, kind of basically just telling, shit happens is the whole show. Like, you can't plan for things. No one knows what the fuck is going on. That's basically life. So that show I just appreciated a lot more, especially as I got older, watching it again, being like, okay, I appreciate this. I get this now.
No, I got you. I understand. I understand the appeal. I just, there's always so much new stuff to watch. I could watch The Sopranos or Breaking Bad, but I don't watch those either.
I told Zenobia about your no rewatching policy, and she said that's one of the craziest things she's ever heard in her life. So
I feel like I up that bar every time I say something that I do with Zenobia. Like I do, and that Zenobia eventually hears about secondhand. Because whenever like I tell Zenobia something, she's like, "Yazeed, you're just kind of a weirdo." But then when you tell her that no, that's like a signifier. Like you think it's crazy to the point that she needs to know how crazy I am.
Yeah, I try to hide my bias. Like I'm not like this crazy fuck Yazeed said this. I kind of just like Yazeed mentioned he believes, and then kind of let her make her own conclusions.
I got
also,
you.
Speaking of shows, my mom watched Game of Thrones. She has a very similar taste to me. She hates accents. She hates swords. She hates whatever, a lot of stuff. And she said basically when she got past the second season, she was super into it, and she basically watched the entire show in a couple weeks. So she just finished it yesterday, and she was not unhappy with the ending. She said it felt like rushed, I guess. But anyway, my point is the fact that my mom liked it means I kind of have to watch it now, because my mom is like me in every way. Basically, I'm like a clone of my mother. So basically, she's probably right. I'll like it eventually, so I have to watch it at some point.
I mean, like I told you when we were first trying to like swap shows, it's like there's like a learning curve to Game of Thrones that is somewhat steep. Where like the first season, they're just like bam, 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 bam. Here's all these people, and then it's like and there's like all this cool backstory, and it's like all these people died. It's like don't even worry about any of them anymore because season 2 is happening, and then they're also like bam, 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 bam. All these new people, a lot of them die, so don't even worry about all of them. More people. It's like there's like a learning curve, like learning how to meet characters in that show and how to become like how to like balance your attachment to them versus like the fear of losing them, basically. So that's kind of cool. But I'm surprised your mom liked it because I don't.
Me too.
I still wonder if you will ever actually like it because I don't know. I don't know. I think you might, but there's a lot of stuff in that show that I think would frustrate you.
Maybe. I don't know. Your taste changes and stuff. So maybe I haven't tried that show in 4 years. Like I haven't seen anything from it in 4 years. Like maybe giving it a shot, like a clean, fresh start, whatever, as a older gentleman that I am today, kind of appreciate it for what it is instead of being like, where are the guns?
Yeah, my man with his gray-haired mustache. I know what's up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't even have a full mustache yet, but it's got grays in it. It's all right.
You said something also that I was going to harp on. I don't remember what it was. I don't know. It'll come back to me or it won't.
Where are the guns?
No, before that. Before we start talking about Game of Thrones.
Sopranos. Rewatching 2000's Attitude.
2000's Attitude may be what it might have been. I don't remember. But all just heads up for people who are listening. You may have noticed that we're trying to change the order of things again. Hence the newly reorganized Homegames podcast. And so we're trying rapid fire questions in the beginning. Then the table of contents, how's it going? Home game stuff, song of the week. So we'll see how that works. But
we're just trying to freestyle it.
Yeah,
I feel like the structure is hard to follow because it's like, Yazeed and I will have a conversation, and it's like, hey, we're talking like friends. It's regular, and then things that we might not want on the podcast. So it's like, okay, and then we start talking about the podcast stuff. It's like, okay, well, how about we just don't, because it's weird. I also have to edit and upload 2 different things. Like there's the pre-show and then the regular thing. So how about fuck all that,
Yeah, it's what I think you and I tend to just go when we get onto the podcast. Yeah. Whether it's we try to like make sure it stays roughly podcast material, but sometimes it just goes off the train tracks a little bit.
Yeah, and I think another thing is like, this is like purely for fun for us. This is just a hobby thing for us. So, like, why not make it fun? I don't want to fucking plan anything, think about anything. Not really, but you know what I mean. I don't really want to have to overthink like a hobby. Mm. So that's kind of just the way I see it.
I love overthinking hobbies. Speaking of overthinking hobbies, your boy got invited to a hike this weekend, or yesterday to be precise.
Is it like an exclusive hike, or Why'd you have to be invited?
Well, we have a mutual friend, and then like he has friends who are going on hikes every weekend almost. But they would go on hikes that are not dog allowed, and if I'm going to go on a hike, I got my dog to go on a hike with me. Basically, that's like 50% of the reason why I got her is to go on hikes with me. So right. I was like, well, I'm gonna do. So anyway, we found a somewhat close to me dog friendly hike, and we did that, and it was really nice to get out there again and go on a hike.
Nice. Is dog friendliness really just like how steep the ledges are, or like what's the thing?
A couple of things. So like for example, in town, like you and I did Sabino Canyon, right? Sabino Canyon is completely off limits to dogs. Dogs cannot legally be brought onto that public land and use any of the trails there, and that's because they're raising bighorn sheep. So bighorn sheep live in Sabino Canyon. Dogs harass bighorn sheep and lower the population, trying to rebuild the species. So dogs aren't allowed in Sabino Canyon. So that's like one reason. Like the trails itself disallow dogs. The other one is points in the trail that dogs cannot traverse. So for example, I don't know if you know this place really well, but it's probably like the ostrich farm, but Picacho Peak. There's a hike out there that you can do. And it's dog friendly up to a certain point, but then there's a point in it where it's so steep that they actually have like metal rings that you have to you hold on to and like kind of like pull yourself up. And there's no way a dog would be able to traverse that. So unless you have the right gear for it, your dog probably shouldn't do that trail. So like you can get a dog mountain climbing harness, which has like full support chest and also like rear. It wraps around the back of their legs to their back legs too, so that they can't fall out of the harness. And that allows you to like do mountain climbing with your dog. So you can do that, but
that's pretty intense. It's kind of hilarious too, thinking of a dog and all that gear. Just like, what the fuck am I doing?
I almost bought one because I was looking to buy her a new harness anyway. Because with her current harness, she can one, slip it because she's just a very smart dog about slipping stuff, and two, it only has a clip on her back, and dogs are very strong pulling in that direction, right? Because that's like how sled dogs work. So I got her one with both two rear clip harnesses, or two rear clips on her top of harness, and then one on the front, her chest. And that's probably where I'll have her when we go on hikes from now on.
Nice.
But I almost did buy her the climbing one because I was like, what if I go rock climbing with her? But you need to be very strong physically because you either clip them into your what is it called? Your rock climbing belt, like your harness as a human, like your human harness. You clip them into that, and then you literally like pull them up the mountain with you, or you have them lay down and then you pull them up via like a pulley system, like up to you, and then you put them on the ledge, and then you climb, and then you pull them up, and then you climb, and then you pull them up again.
That sounds hilarious. And also like a super pain in the ass.
I mean, mountaineering with your dog adds a level of difficulty to it, but it also makes it more fun because your dog's with you.
Yeah. Again, you and I are not really alike.
I mean, that's part of why I got her. I want to get into mountaineering. I want my dog to be able to mountaineer with me, and that's going to take some time and some effort and some gear. So slowly amassing a collection of gear for her.
Nice. You can make some interesting home games content. You know, it's like, whoa, guy makes Squarer 2 on top of a mountain. Like some real clickbaity type shit, and the thumbnail is just you with Sapphire.
That'd be hilarious. One of my friends has been trying to convince me, either jokingly or not jokingly, to become a VTuber, and I told him I'd be the first VTuber to take my dog on a walk.
How would that technology work? Would you need like a third robot thing to like follow you around and then project the anime thing on you?
No, I think what I would do is just hide my identity. So I'd need to have at least two APIs, right? One to hide other people's faces so you can't. Because have to be like recording on the hike, so so like hide other people's faces. One, two, hide all lettering. I don't want people finding me if I become a streamer, so I have to hide like all lettering. So you can't read a street name and be like, okay, via like, what is it called, like geocache or whatever? It's the game is?
GeoGuessr.
GeoGuessr.
I don't know what that is.
It's the thing where they like give you a random image from Google Maps, then you're supposed to like find where your start location is.
I don't like that. I've never heard of that. No.
Oh, actually the person who produced all our music, Tynan, he was playing that on and was streaming it, and I was watching him do it, and it was pretty interesting. He's quite good at it, actually. So there's that.
Internet's creepy, man.
It's not like here's some residential street. It normally is like an intersection of like major streets in a city. But he got one in like Russia, one in like Papua New Guinea, one in like somewhere in Equatorial Africa. I don't remember which country, not Congo or Democratic Republic of Congo, whatever that is, DRC. But yes.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
But anyway, yeah, so I need those two things, and then maybe like an overlay so that you can't see my dog, because my dog is somewhat distinct looking. There's not a lot of dogs that look like her. But the other problem, though, is that there's some pretty clear evidence of where we live, because if anyone knows anything about cacti, there's only like one state in the whole of the world that has saguaro cactus in it. And I live there. So like, where does this idiot live? Probably somewhere in Arizona. But hopefully that gives me enough wiggle room that they can't figure out who I am.
Just keep giving people hints, Yazeed. It's a great idea. Just give them major cross streets. Give them like do pictures of just your backyard and then post them to Twitter. You know, kind of give them hints, keep them guessing. But like, give them hints.
What I should do is take pictures of other people's backyards. Like I take a picture of like your backyard, one of my mom's backyard, one of my uncle's backyard, and just keep like every person I know in Tucson, so they don't actually know.
I don't like this game.
I don't either, because one of you is going to start getting weird, aggressive packages from strangers. But anyway, like was really good.
What's an aggressive package?
Like someone's toe or something.
Like the UPS guy punches me in the throat and gives it to me.
No, like people just send weird stuff sometimes, I feel like.
Yeah, well, I partially hope no one, like, we never really hit that fan base peak, because then people will actually start sending us weird shit if we ever get like a PO box or something. So if we keep this kind of low.
I mean, the other option though is if we could do like an unboxing episode every so often. We just open their stuff on stream or something.
Oh, look, another toe.
Another toe. I know, like, I don't know if you follow them, but there's a group of streamers called Offline TV, and they do an unboxing every so often. They get a lot of swords. They get like at least 2 swords per unboxing. So it's a lot. It's come out to like maybe like 20 swords, 30 swords over their streaming career.
Just counting swords is like a unit of anything. Just swords as a unit is fucking hilarious.
And then there's
20 swords.
There's a streamer / YouTube dude who I watch named Pay Money Wubby, and he did one of those, and someone just sent him a gun, like just straight up like a Glock, and he opened it on stream, and it was just like a regular like brown envelope. And he like opened it, reached in, and he pulled it out like on stream, and just like. Because it's like a real live gun.
Right. That's crazy. Yeah, no, I let's not actually open up anything for people to send us anything.
No, yeah, I agree. I feel like interacting with crowds like that opens you up to more people trying to interact with you.
Yeah. That was a giant bomb thing. One of the last things that I think it was PAX East, maybe? But Ryan Davis, one of the co-founder people of Giant Bomb, he drank breast milk at their panel because some dude just like brought him a thing of breast milk, like real human breast milk apparently. He just drank it because it was for the fun of it, for like the crowd, for the event, for the moment. But after that, you have to think like, well, I can't top that, so I should stop forever, or that was a terrible idea and I should stop forever.
I'll be real with you. If somebody ever gave me milk and they were like, this is if anyone gave me any white liquid, I'd be like, no. First of all, whatever is in this, I don't want it. But second of all, human breast milk, unless I know that person and they were aware of what was going on, I don't think I'd be like into that idea. That's an insane high to try to overcome.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just a weird thing to think about. Like, like I totally get it in that moment. Like if there were ever 1,000 people in a room who were excited to hear me talk about fucking video games, it'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm in the hype, and some dude brought me breast milk, and yeah, that's like for the crowd, yeah, you know, it's all fun. But holy shit, that's gross.
I don't think anyone would ever bring you breast milk. I think we joke about it enough that they'd just bring you like exotic eggs. They'd be like, here's a cassowary egg. Scrambled but overdone just a little bit, so it's a little crunch for you, but
yeah, let's keep it all egg related. No human products allowed, please.
Human eggs was what I was thinking. Anyway, aside from my enjoyable hike, I'm organizing the resubscription to World of Warcraft event that will now consume the rest of my life. So expect an update on that on Monday, because probably this weekend I'm going to resub to WoW. It's going to be either great or terrible for my mental health, or maybe both.
Nice. Remember when I was like, hey, this is either going to be like a good thing, and I think this is when WoW Classic like first became a thing before Burning Crusade. I was like, this will be either really great, or we're going to watch you slowly descend into like this horrible state of madness, and now is the real time for that because it's Burning Crusade time. So
yeah, a little
rest in peace, Yazeed.
Well, because it's somewhat complicated because I have to I'm gonna play my original character as far as I can before my brother is ready to play as well. Then I delete that character. Well, first I make a new character. It's so I can play with my brother, because we're gonna make new characters on the other faction. We were playing Horde, but we're gonna switch to Alliance because my brother really likes Alliance and it doesn't really matter to me. So
nice.
There we go. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a lot of hours. I imagine I'm gonna spend like 100 hours over the course of like 2 months.
That's not that bad. That's what, like 12 hours a week? That's not that bad.
Something like that.
Yeah, you deserve it. Do you?
Thank you.
Yeah,
this is the reassurance I enjoy.
Well, that would be like 6 hours on a Saturday and then 6 hours on a Sunday every week. I mean, that seems like the extent to which I'm comfortable playing video games, you know? Like as an adult, like, okay, 12 hours a week.
I mean, like I could play like an hour or two like on a Tuesday night, Wednesday night. Well, I guess on a Tuesday night, on a Friday night, Saturday and Sunday. So it's like 4 hours, then what is that, 8 hours spread over Saturday, Sunday? I could do that.
Sounds like a lot of math to me. I don't know, bud, but you do you. That's all I'm saying. Do you?
I should probably figure out how much I actually do spend playing video games. So there is that.
Yeah. Well, Steam will tell you. Like I spent 5 years, 5 hours this week playing City Skylines or something like that, because that game is great.
Wait, it recently?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I thought it just told you overall stats. That's impressive.
No, it'll be like in the last 2 weeks. It gives you 2 weeks stats and then all stats.
That's good to know. I do like City Skylines. I like to make silly cities, if that makes sense.
Define a silly city. Like what's like silly about a city?
A city with no stop signs. Like a city with no intersections, rather. Okay.
Is it all like roundabouts? Like what's the thing? What do you do?
No roundabouts either.
What do you do?
So like it takes a little bit of finesse, but like basically like you use 1 lane roads, and then if you needed to get around to the other side, you like build the 1 lane that would get you there. So like imagine like what normally would be the intersection between 2 streets. You make it so there's a 1-way that merges into one direction, and there's another 1-way that merges into the other direction. And then that street becomes like a 3-way instead of a 2-way, or a 4-way instead of a 3-way, and then it narrows back down into what it's supposed to be.
Interesting. So it's like a Twizzler street.
Yes.
Or what's the one that rips apart? Red Vine or Twizzler? I forget.
Twizzler. Red Vine's not rip apartable.
Okay. Then yeah. What I said the first time then.
Yes. Yeah. I like it because it's like an interesting challenge, but I don't like it because it makes my brain hurt.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't really mess with stuff. I'm still trying to figure out the game, and I keep getting disasters, like random disasters that happen to me. I finally hit a population of like 30,000 in one of my cities, and I was really happy about that. And I'm getting like a good profit from the from taxation and stuff. I haven't changed any of the default laws, so I don't have to do anything that I'm morally opposed to. Yeah, everything is pretty great, but then it's like, sinkhole just destroyed that part of your thing. All those people are fucking dead. It's like, okay, well, I'm gonna Alt F4 this because I don't really want to deal with that. Then you can have like disaster response units and stuff like that, but it costs money, and the real valuable thing is space. And the thing is, industry keeps on like fucking up the earth, and so having residential anything beside the industry area will be bad for their health and stuff. And so I kind of tried to separate it so there's just one island with just fucking, it's just terrible. Like it's all just drilling oil. Like the earth is just like a wafer thin cracker underneath. It's just dying. And then another part is like a university with a bunch of high density housing and high density whatever. There's no trash anything there. All the trash is taken off island so they can keep living in their like fantasy that garbage doesn't exist. Like I really think that these people are living up the high life, but their taxes are the same as the trash island, and that's the same as the suburb. And I have all these things kind of separated, and people keep tweeting that they're happy, but I'm still just like I want them to be happier, you know?
Yeah.
I want my life expectancy to keep going up. So it's fun. I don't know. I like that kind of. I really, really like that game, and it's not really my normal type of thing. So it's kind of different.
I was kind of surprised that you enjoyed that game. The first time I played that game, I didn't understand how sewage worked and how water worked, and so I was dumping sewage into a lake and then also pulling water out of that lake. And I was like, why are my people getting sick? I have to build so many goddamn hospitals. And then it clicked when I was mousing over something, and it was just like, yeah, man, the sewage is like, my water smells bad or something like that. And I was like, weird. That's weird to get a tweet from. And then you go look at it, and you're just like, oh no, whoops, whoopsie daisy.
Nice, but yeah, that's that was my week, I guess. I don't really have anything else. City Skylines is great. I'll keep playing that.
Hey, noise. Are you ready to move on to home game stuff then?
Yes, home game stuff. For once, I have nothing to report on home game stuff. Hey. I did nothing.
All right, so then I get to report. Basically, what I did was I did what I talked about last week, where I just have a basic shape, which is it's kind of like a weird shape. It's imagine center block, and then there's block, 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 block. And then the front, it makes like a little triangle. So imagine like a pentagon. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. Imagine a pentagon around the basic shape. And then when you go right, the pentagon aims right. When you go left, the pentagon aims left. Up aims up. Down aims down.
Okay. And so the point is where it can see, like
anywhere inside the pentagon is where it can see. Anywhere inside the pentagon. Basically, the way I did the seeing part is if it detects a collision with a square that isn't just the background or the base, it just adds it as a viewer. Like it can say basically it can see, which allows you to see through walls currently, which obviously I don't want to allow, but
yeah,
I need to figure out how to do like vector almost of like vision, where like if square A is here and then there's a blocker, you can't see what's on the other side of that blocker. But I just haven't coded that part yet. I'm not actually sure if that's the best way to tackle it yet or not, but that's the goal for like this week.
Yeah, that's cool. That's an interesting question, because I guess I don't know enough about, like, I don't know anything about physics. I don't know anything about how sight works or light or fucking, I don't know anything. I barely know math, you know. So I don't know what the like right answer is there. Mm-hmm. So that's why like last week I was talking about my idea for sight being a view of the game state minus filtered things, and then you get like a perspective on it or whatever, and you can kind of filter in this dynamic way. So in my head it's like, yeah, you can project like a line basically from the center point of what the person is and do this whole, like you said, vector math and say, okay, well the vision could go here, hit this thing, and then maybe like, oh, it could have a reflective surface, so then you can see something within this, like whatever, like fucking math and things have projections or whatever. Or you can do something that's more like what I said, where it's, give me this circle minus things that are, then you have to at that point define what it means to be behind the wall, which of course then gets into like that math stuff. So maybe it's the same solution in different ways or whatever, but I don't know what the right way is, but it sounds cool. Sounds like a hard problem.
Yeah, I'm not 100% either. The other thing I'm running into is at like the edges of the world, basically. Because like if the player's square is the center of a pentagon and then they move all the way to the left, the pentagon.
What if it's like undefined behavior?
Yeah, it's a little. Basically the pentagon doesn't move anymore, so you maintain vision around you is how I've coded it right now, as if the pentagon was centered in a way that allowed it to actually be on screen. I haven't coded it so like if you bump into the side, the pentagon like collapses with the wall, right? Because that's what really should happen is if you go into a corner and one of your edges would be like off the edge of the world, the pentagon should just get cut up until you get to like the edge, so that you have just like the point and the base and whatever. But
there must be some quick geometry math fix thing to say, hey, here's like my 2D grid. That's essentially what the game is, 2D grid. And you say, I have this point here, and then I have this wall, which are lines in like the way that we've built them, right? Like they're these lines that have maybe spaces kind of within them, but the hard edge of it is this thing. So for the purpose of like the problem, it's a square. This is just a square. You take the corner and you convert it into a square. So then it's just, does the point intersect with any of the squares, or like, or does it hit this certain number of squares? I don't know. There's like some fucking, I can see it on a graph paper in my head that there's like something you can do to math that out to say like, are they next to this wall? Basically, if they're within the square, if they're intersecting within the square, then they're at the corner of the wall. Do something to their vision. That kind of thing. And because to me, like, all that stuff sounds computationally expensive unless you figure out like the trick. So
yeah, that's why I didn't worry about coding it yet. I just don't move it if it would go off the edge of the world. So that obviously needs to be fixed, because that's a very easy to exploit bug. You just stick yourself in a corner and somehow you have like vision as if you weren't in the corner.
Right. So it's like built-in wall hacks or whatever.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, also like right now, just the vision is rudimentary. And I guess the last thing I was going to ask you is it possible right now to change color of a square for one individual? Like basically, can somebody sees a square as red, but everybody else sees it as blue, or is that really not an option?
No, one game node can have one color at a time. So in that case, you would have to have different game nodes representing the view of an underlying thing. So that's something to consider. It's kind of like in this whole realm of, like I said, having a perspective. And I guess I'm not deep enough into that whole kind of exercise yet. Like I'm not working with it yet, so I don't have a really clear idea of what I think it should be. But what am I even talking about? What am I even saying? What was the question? Like, what was the
multiple allowing us
different states,
different perspectives of a square changing its color, for example.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So the perspective thing. So I don't know if the right answer is to have like different game nodes to be different perspectives, or if one game node can have different views like that, where one thing can be red to one person or blue to another, which would be like everybody looking at something would have to tell the thing who they are first, which is kind of strange to me. Like to observe something, we have to know who you are, which maybe makes sense or whatever. Or if it's like there's this thing that you see, and based on who you are, will generate another thing for you to see. But it's kind of the same problem. Like we still have to identify you and then do something to the way that you see something. So I don't know what the right thing to do is, but it's something to think about for sure in this whole thing of having vision and views and all that whole thing.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes as I attempt to do that part. The reason I was asking about the color stuff though was I wanted to see if I could make it more clear where your vision range was, but I realized with the way I had written everything else so far, the base is just the base, and then when you have vision, it's on top of the base. So right now it's just a black base, and then as you move around, if your vision goes over a piece of terrain, suddenly that what was black is now like gray for the terrain, or it'd be like the player's node's color, for example, if it was a player's node that you ran into with your vision, vision range, I should say. So what I wanted to do is like make it like lighten the black a little bit. I guess like make it grayer. I don't know how to explain it. Like you've played Among Us. We've played Among Us.
Mm-hmm.
Like the spaceship has like a default color when you're not in vision, but when you are in vision, as like it lightens up that spot where you're at, so it's kind of obvious where your vision range is.
I don't know what you're talking about, but
All right.
but vision. I'm following you on vision range. I don't know what part of Among Us you're talking about.
Just like as your little dude move, as your sprite like moves around the world, it like lightens up the area around you, and that tells you what your vision range is.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
I want to be able to do
stuff.
that,
Yeah.
but I don't know how I would do that for just one person, if that makes sense.
For one person,
Like because if everybody has their own vision range, I don't want you to be able to see where other people's vision ranges are, because I'd change the color of the base in their vision radius.
I guess the vision thing would be each person gets like this, certain polygon or whatever the thing is on the screen that can show them something. So if that like view is essentially an unfuzzy fire for the entire map or whatever, and it's just giving a view of that part of the map to a specific person, then I guess I don't see how that's different from handling that for any arbitrary number of people. If it's like, show a spot on the map, give me a view of it, as in like illuminate things in this circle. It doesn't necessarily matter who it's for. I mean, like in the actual thing of Homegames, you can say, this circle node belongs to Yazeed, this circle node belongs to whatever. So it wouldn't render for other people, but it would just be like a thing. And then if you see, this is what I'm talking about when I mean like having a perspective, because to me it seems like you can have a circle over the area, and then it's like you're not creating a new game node. You're doing something to a game node that's there. You're not actually doing anything. You're just looking at it. So you're saying, give me this chunk of the overall game and let me see it. And maybe like in that moment, you're already saying, let me see it. It's known that you're seeing it because that's the whole reason the circle exists, because that's like your sight. So then that automatically means that it's associated to you. So then we can say, well, then here's what it looks like to you. Here's what it looks like to someone else. And then you apply that filter or whatever, you apply that transformation to the actual core thing of what it is, which is like a block at point x2 or whatever. It's like, oh, well, now it's a red block because when you look at it, it's red, whatever the fuck. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. But, so I think that, that sounds like an argument for what you said earlier of like a thing can be red to someone and blue to another, where it can be black to me because it's not illuminated at all, but it could be white to you because you're looking at it with your flashlight, whatever.
Yeah, I don't know how I would tackle that yet either. So like, I guess those are like the problems that I've ran into. So I'm interested as I work through them, maybe, or run into them more, or just try to code against them just to see how it goes and what I run into and stuff.
Well, I'm going to be working on Homegames stuff again starting this week, probably this weekend. So if you want, we can like do that thing where we go through the problem and try to like talk through it. We can go through the current state of your thing, and it can be like a demo to me, but also like a demo to just whatever. And then we can just talk through the problem and see how that goes.
Okay. Yeah, that works. That works for me.
Cool.
I imagine it would be helpful.
Yeah. I just want to see something, because I've been dealing with boring infrastructure bullshit for like a month, so I want to see something cool.
Well, have I got bad news for you?
It's all right. It'll be impressive.
Hey,
whatever.
All right. Do you have anything else you want to talk about for Homegames?
Yeah, just to follow up on the thing from last week about the idea of like a passive thing that you can do with like basically Homegames running as a thing that's just always on in your house, and you can kind of check in on a every now and then basis instead of kind of this jump in to play a game and then leave and the game ends thing. It's kind of like this ever living, ever present thing that you can always just access the way that you would a Homegames game. Have you given any thought to that from last week or anything?
Yeah, I thought about it a little bit. All right, I think the idea is really cool. I don't see utilization of it, if that makes sense. I don't know why somebody would do that as opposed to just having their own AWS instance, maybe, or something similar, where they can just connect it out to it and work with it that way. And the reason I say that is maybe because the way I think of home games, to me, home games is something that I would only really turn on to play with friends. Like, oh, I have friends over, like my home games instance, like updated and set up and everything. And like, if always like, oh, there's some changes I need to make, and let me, just double check that the games work real quick. And then when my friends come over, obviously not during Chrono or whatever, but after that, or before it, and then they come over and we play home games for a bit. Like we chill, we eat food, we hang out, we play home games, we talk smack and whatever. So that's how I think of. To me, that's like how I would use home games. I wouldn't keep it running. I would be like, okay, like Joseph and Snovia and JC are coming over. It's like I we'll play games together, smack talk a little bit, have a good time.
Yeah, I guess, okay. So for me, I think of it in the same, like, it's the same use case, like, oh, people are coming over, whatever, play games. But to me, it's the opposite of how people interact with the actual system. Like, in my head, you run it, and then it just runs. Like, it's just on. And then it's like, oh, it could like update itself and restart itself when it knows it needs to, and all this other kind of stuff. But this thing of always being on, because you always know that, like, if you think of like, oh, the board games are in the closet or whatever, it's like, okay, well, we can always go to this thing that we know is always there, and we can always play games at this thing on our phones. Like, I can always go to this as long as that Raspberry Pi is running in the corner, like, or as long as we have power and Wi-Fi, like, we can go to this thing and we can play a game in this moment. And yeah, someone can get an AWS instance, and someone can do that right now. Someone can run home games over the public internet, and we have like that'd be great if someone did that, but whatever, like, that's a thing people can do today, and it could still just always be running. Like Pico de Gallo is exactly that. Pico de Gallo is an always running version of home games, and it's just the one main home games dashboard thing running, ready to spawn games underneath it. But when people join the game, it'll create a game, and when people quit, it'll delete it. But there's no game running at all times. And thinking of like the ability for it to do something that does persist, and I think that's like the general conversation thing is like persistence in home games, and how do we recover from state, or like how do we store state, recover from that, and to what extent do we give those tools to developers, because the games are kind of inherently ephemeral. That's the fancy ass words for it, because they're short-lived multiplayer games. They don't really need persistence. But what about something like Words with Friends, just for comparison or whatever, just for an example? That game doesn't need to be running all the time. It could just be recovering from a save state, and it could be a new instance of it every time, but you don't really know, because whatever, you check in on it every couple days. So all it really needs to be doing is making sure that it's available when you want it, which we can do at the moment with home games. But if we had persistence, we can have something that lives for longer than that, and you can always access it. And then obviously we can design the interface in a way that makes it easy to access those without having to like go through the dashboard and scroll down and hit the button and then go in and whatever, to make it kind of easier to access, like your go-to thing, like my chores list, whatever the fuck. But so just thinking of like the ability for someone to make that, obviously something cooler than a chores list, but the actual tools we would need is just saving and loading, I think, and a nicer UI for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like I said, I think it's a cool idea. To me, I normally don't leave. I personally wouldn't want to leave something running if I'm not going to use it, except for if I have people over, right? Because for the most part, I don't play on my phone. I mostly just use my phone to text people or to browse Reddit or the internet or whatever, or watch a YouTube video maybe while I'm cooking. But it's like I wouldn't leave it running just to have it running. So maybe it's specifically to me. I just don't know if I would use it, so I'm just projecting that onto other people who may or may not also want to use it as like an always running thing.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I don't know use cases. I just think it'd be possible if we did this thing. And I think just in general, I don't want people, like whatever, people can turn off the game server or whatever, but in my head, it runs, it's there, it's easy and accessible. I think like the kind of person who wants to like customize their Android phone, for example, is the same kind of person who wants to like turn off and on processes themselves, but I think most people probably don't. You know,
shots fired at me. Okay, all right. Yeah, no, I agree that might be something that's kind of unique to me because I definitely don't. I like to have that kind of control of like what's on, what's off at all times. I don't like things to be on if I'm not using it or I don't plan to use it in the immediate future. Kind of like why I uninstall games from Steam if I don't think I'm going to play it like anytime in the future. So.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of a possibility where someone can make something using this core technology that makes you say, "Oh, I would want this to be running more than just when people are over." And if that thing were ever made, how would we technically like build that? That's all.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it doesn't interfere with somebody's ability to turn it off and then turn it back on when they want to turn it back on, and like to manually control updating and all that stuff. Like basically, as long as we don't take away a person's control over home games, like their administration over home games, I'm totally cool with adding in a layer of like always on ideology to it.
But it's not even always on. Like it could be you and I are playing a game. I want this game to be in the same state next time we play this game. Even if it's not always on, like when you exit on the close function or whatever, it could just autosave. Next time you come back to it, it can be like, hey, I know you were playing a game or whatever with somebody, but the problem comes in when remembering who is who. Like when the game was running, it was, oh, Yazeed was this and Joseph was this, and then two devices connected to me later. How do I know that they're Joseph and Yazeed? Like we would need to build that whole thing there, but it doesn't necessarily need to be always on and running because we still have the same problem. If you leave the game and come back, it has no idea who the fuck you are. Well, I think you have an ID, but whatever. It's the same kind of a problem. So anyway, yeah.
The reload from state thing is something that I think we need to figure out for sure. Because I do think that there is a use case to saving an instance of like saving a game state and then pulling it back up. And I think that's what you and me, maybe somebody else, but I think definitely you and me, we're talking about it. And I think the last time that I brought up the point of like part of the reason why we gave people names in home games was that they could pick themselves again when they reload a game, right? So it's like, okay, which one of you is Gemini Potato Peeler and which one of you is Crockpot McGee, and you gotta like, oh, I'm Gemini Potato Peeler, oh, I'm Crockpot McGee, and then it figures out from there like, okay, so this guy maps to this player ID, which now we're just gonna like convert over to this thing. But right now we don't have any of that side built of like that administrative slam that happens before the game actually like just kicks off. You know what I mean?
Well, we have the that whole thing, but we don't have that once the game server dies and Homegames is done. All that data doesn't persist. So, but
yeah, that's
kind of have
we
a halfway.
Yeah, I think that might be something that we need to maybe start to whiteboard our solution, because then what we can do is we can offer up an optional save to games that if somebody was like, oh, I would like to close Homegames now, but before I do that, please save the state so that we can recall it later, and then we would build in like a reload thing. Which,
yeah, an optional reload thing for each game to implement.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting if we allowed multiple save states too, so that if like you and me were playing, we could save our state, and then if me and JC were playing, I could save that without overwriting the one for you and me. So I could when you come over again, then we can pull up that version. When JC comes over, I can pull up that version. So I'm not constantly like overwriting who's who or starting a new one with each person having that overwrite it, you know?
Yeah. To me, this sounds like a thing where you have kind of some generic blob of data that a game can store, just kind of an object for it to have its own key values and whatever, to be able to store and recover from, and then kind of a home games wide thing above that where it's like, oh, this is the player ID of the person who whatever, and this is the name of the person, and then maybe there's some other metadata like the name of the save. So, save A, save B, save whatever, and you can have all these associated to certain games. Mm-hmm. And then that player data is I forget whatever, it's optional essentially. Mm-hmm. Like on a technical level it's optional because that would be really easy to test games. Like if you're testing a square on level 7, just have a fake save state where you're on level 6, load it into the thing, and you're like going whatever. There's no real player associated to it, and you don't need to have that functionality to like recover the player name or whoever to know anything about whose save this was, but you just know that there was something on this stage. So recover from that. But like as a testing mechanism, basically, I think it would be really helpful.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
We could build more integration tests. I don't know how to build an integration test library, so I won't try to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that whole thing is going to be cool. I think the long running persistent stuff is really just save games. Mm-hmm. And then the long running persistence thing is basically just if someone builds a thing or someone has a use case for that long running thing, then maybe it makes sense to have a UI specifically for things that are not games, because then the use case becomes different. Like you said, it's either people are coming over and I'm playing games, or this thing is on and I use it for something. Mm-hmm. If the technology underneath it can provide both, but like they're not really used at the same time, like it's kind of a different product at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I mean, is it a different product or is it just two different use cases? Because like you said, the persistently on thing is more or less just rapidly and automatically loading and saving states. Whereas,
in terms of technology, but in terms of the actual usage of the thing, the use case is different. If I say, hey guys, come over and we'll look at what game to play, there's 20 of them on this dashboard and we can join them in whatever. Or, hey, I have this thing running all the time in my house that does this thing and I want to access it quickly. Mm-hmm. Like the dashboard isn't the same use case there. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I'm running Square. It's a tool that I use to like do whatever, do my housework. And so, yeah, go to the Homegames dashboard, scroll down to Square, hit that, and then join session 2, or like hit this button, recover from state, or whatever. Like the technology there is all the same as it would be in another world where the UI was a lot cleaner and it was just like a direct thing to go into your not game thing. It's still basically just view state on top of JavaScript components or whatever that you're running on a server somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I think that there is utility there. I just don't know. Personally, I wouldn't utilize a persistently on thing. Mostly because, like you said, Android person who likes to control what's on and off at all times.
Yeah. Nerd.
Hey. Is there anything else you want to talk about for home games, or anything else you want to bring up for this?
No, that's about it.
Right on. Are you ready to move on to Song of the Week?
Yes. Wouldn't it be hilarious, though, if I actually wasn't? Like, I let the time go for the song to play, and then I wasn't ready for Song of the Week?
That would be very funny. I think if we didn't pre-write down what songs for each other, that would have been like even funnier if you got to like Song of the Week and you're like, oh, I never actually picked a song for this week, sorry.
No, look, I would never skip a Song of the Week, I'm too devoted to it. Your Song of the Week was Slow Dance with You, probably from some TV show, am I right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. From Adventure Time, sung by whoever voices Marceline, the Vampire Queen, from Adventure Time.
Yeah, so this song was cute. It was very cute. It was the extended version. It was like 2.5 minutes. My gripe is that it's essentially just the little vocal line, like the little hook or the little whatever, just over and over and over again. Like there's barely a song there. But it's cute. It's nice.
Yeah, the reason that it's the extended version is because in the actual show, when she sings the song, she gets interrupted like basically how far the song loops over by her dad. So it's like the song just took what she sang and then looped it a couple of times and they gave it a thumbs up. But this is like one of the only versions of that I can find that doesn't have the part where her dad cuts her off, because I don't necessarily want to hear like the dialogue leading in and out when I'm trying to listen to a song. Because that's just adventure time happening when I'm trying to listen to a song. And there's like a cover version, but the cover version I don't enjoy at all. So yeah, this is like the only version I could find, which is why it's just like a YouTube link with like no words. Like, here's this, watch this one.
But yeah, it was cute. It was fine. It was enjoyable. It was pleasant.
I do firmly like this song. Your song of the week is by Double Deuce Mafia, Can't Knock the Hustle. Now, I want to tell you right out of the gate why I had to ask you what this song was. So I normally take what you write and put it into YouTube or whatever to try to find it. And I did that. And it was like, here's the Jay-Z song. And I was like, unless JC is also part of like some group called Dub Deuce Mafia. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe not. And I was like, okay, so most likely Joseph gave me something on Spotify because he knows I use Spotify. And into Spotify, I didn't type in Dub Deuce Mafia. I typed in Double Deuce Mafia, and that comes back with nothing. And I was like, Joseph sent me a dead end. I don't know what it is. And you had to actually just link the song to me on Spotify. And then I realized, that's why I messaged you. I was like, I'm impressed by how stupid I am sometimes.
Yeah.
But
the Double Deuce Mafia
feels old. The song feels
very old.
Yeah.
This song came out in 2003. It is probably the most like underground-ish song I'll ever have on Song of the Week. They have 74 monthly listeners on Spotify.
Oh wow, that's impressive. That's some like super indie biz, dude. Holy moly.
What'd you think of this song?
This song it gives me like what's the word where something from the past makes you happy?
Nostalgia?
Yeah, it gives me like nostalgia from like driving in the car, but like I have no control over the radio, so it's like whatever KRQ is playing, which is like a local radio station. This song feels like something KRQ would play the like cleaned up version of.
KRQ, that would be like Justin Timberlake. But okay, I see what you're saying. The time period is correct.
Yeah, right. Like when like it felt like every kid listened to KRQ on the way to school almost.
It was 98.3 for me, but yeah.
Okay, all right.
But yeah.
I mean, listen. There's three options in Tucson if you're gonna listen to radio on the way. There's four options, right? There's KRQ. There's 98.3. There was KFMA, whichever station they're on now, and then there was you could listen to talk radio, which
it's country.
Oh shoot, you're right. I always forget about country because I never listen to it. Although listen, if you're listening to country on your way to school, I'm not normally one to judge, but I'm gonna judge you somewhat harshly.
You're gonna judge me for slapping Garth?
I'm gonna judge you for slapping Garth.
No, but yeah, the Can't Knock the Hustle is a special song for me because I think of the hook a lot. It's just you can't knock and you can't knock. You just repeat it. It's a super old type of rap music. It kind of reminds me of like Bone Thugs or whatever, where they have like a really like they rap fast, but it's smooth. It's like a very specific type of thing. We were at a mall in like 2003 at an FYE. And these dudes were there signing CDs, giving people like headphones, whatever, to listen to a song from their album, and then sell their CDs, whatever, and sign them. So we met these dudes and bought their CD, and that song has been in my head like every year or so. It comes up, the little hook, the you can't knocking, you can't, and then the first verse. I know like half of the first verse in my head because it's just those weird things that stick with you when you're a kid and just whatever. So. The annual Can't Knock the Hustle came up this past week, and I was like, oh shit, this is it.
You know what this reminds me of? You know the Mr. Tongue Twister?
Like Twista?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
This reminds me of that. I don't think that they're from the same era or even like the same part of the U.S., but it really does remind me of like that era of rap.
If you're talking about like Twista, the overnight celebrity dude, the like world's fastest rapper dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like the same era. It's like the late '90s or whatever, and then these dudes were early 2000s, so about 5 years apart. But
Yes.
and they're Twista's from Chicago, and I think one of these dudes is from Chicago as well. So actually, very keen ear you got there.
I'm getting better at this hip hop thing. I like the song. Like I said, it makes me have warm nostalgia feelings from before I could control my radio. Because now it's like it's Spotify and the volume never changes and like everything is like so set because I have such a firm grasp on what goes on. But this reminds me of when I didn't.
It makes me feel like I'm being forced to listen to it.
It reminds me of listening to commercials and like just the whole like grab bag.
The drive at 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The like just like the grab bag of morning radio with like the zany things that they do because for some reason that's still popular.
Yeah. Fat Dick in the Morning or whatever it is. That whole kind of
like
vibe.
when they're like War of the Roses and you're like, wow, this is super cool. And then when you get older, you're like, but why does everyone sound the same? Oh, it's because they just use the same actors. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm glad you liked the song. I'm glad I could pass down the tradition of randomly thinking of Can't Knock the Hustle every year,
Hey.
When I'm dead and gone, it'll be you and your kin keeping the tradition.
Bold of you to assume I'm gonna outlive you, but
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, bud. I do have one more question for you. It's a rapid fire question, kind of.
Rapid fire question, kind of. I think that's good. I don't know.
What is your least favorite part of your favorite keyboard?
Oh shit, that's a great question. Well, for all the YouTube people, this is my favorite keyboard. And let me tell you, there's nothing wrong with it. There's not a goddamn thing wrong with it. I think maybe the fact that it's an old ancient USB connection. Mm-hmm. Got to have a thick fatty cable because the keyboard is it was designed like 15 years ago, I think. The successor to this one just came out, and I think it's got USB-C and Bluetooth, so that would be really, really nice. But yeah, I guess the fact that it's got an ancient USB cable. Other than that, it's literally flawless.
Hey, nice.
It's a HHKB Pro 2 Type S, by the way, for people who are not watching the video. I know, right?
Nerd. Yeah, he calls me a nerd, and he's like out here memorizing his keyboard serial number. Oh my god.
The model name.
I custom made this keyboard, which is
that's very pretty.
Thank you.
Is that a WASD? Oh, WASD
yes,
keyboard?
It is WASD
Dude,
keyboard.
Right next to me, I have one of those too.
Hey! Oh, reverse color scheme too, almost. Yeah, I really like this keyboard for typing. It just has really low actuation force requirements, which is nice for me for typing because it's really easy to just like do, so not like slamming keys.
Right.
My only thing I dislike about it is I can't rest my fingers on it when I'm playing video games because the actuation pressure is so low that it actually depresses the key.
Yeah.
Which has gotten me in trouble, but it is what it is.
Requires you to actively be on it to be.
Yeah.
Games.
I have to maintain mental connection with my hand. I can't just rest it on top. But the reason I switched to this one for playing games in the first place is because the number one thing I hate about a keyboard is when it double types, which is as the keyboard starts to die or has an issue, as you type, it'll double type a letter. So you hit L and it'll, when you're trying to type help, it'll double type the E or the H. For me, that keyboard was to the point where it's double typing 2 letters in there, so it'd be HHEELP. And I was just rough. I can't code with this. I can't play games with this anymore. So I switched to what normally was my just coding keyboard to now my permanent keyboard while I figure out what to do.
And did you say what kind of switches those are?
These are
red.
No, they're brown. They're brown switches.
Oh, okay, cool. It's like the middle between red and blue, kind of soft, kind of not.
Yeah, there's definitely a firm, when you click it, but you don't require a lot of force, and it doesn't make any sound. The reason I got it because I used it in the office, and using like green or blue switches would be hilarious when you're writing code in the office.
Yeah. Another reason why the HHKB Pro 2 Type S is so great. I hate the fucking long ass name, but it's quiet because it's got a Topra switches or something, and it's Type S because they're silent. They have like a dampener or something at the bottom. I don't know what it is, but they're great for an office because like people can't hear you at all, and it's still you get that click.
Yeah, mechanical keyboards definitely have a satisfying thing to it. I put dampeners on this one just to reduce the sound even further, because with Browns you get the click still, but with the dampeners, like, it's almost inaudible unless I'm like really slamming my keyboard. Yeah. But if you're really slamming your keyboard in the office, I think maybe you should take a minute and take a breaksy. Yeah.
My main Windows keyboard is brown switches with dampeners on them, with O-rings on them. I would bring it up, but then that'd be the third keyboard I would bring up because they're all within arms.
Listen, I think people who listen to this podcast, so me, know that in your home you just actually have a closet full of keyboards, and Synovia isn't allowed in there or to know about it or which closet that is.
Synovia is aware of it. That's also the board game room. It's board games and mechanical
closet.
Keyboard.
It's a mix of like tablecloths and then Joseph's keyboards just stacked.
Got to keep a good mix, balance.
I actually never knew you played board games.
I don't. We just have a lot of them because like when people come over, it's like the idea of people coming over and playing board games, and then the reality of playing board games and having to teach everybody the rules. It's like, fuck this. You know?
Yeah. That's why I'm just gonna bring a set of cards and Uno
for the bachelor party.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that's a good combo. Everyone knows Uno, kind of.
Yeah. I also have like Cards Against. I have a bunch of card games and stuff. And
listen, Cards Against Humanity with alcohol and or other material involved, I think we're good.
Okay.
I think that'll be happening regardless, but we'll figure all that out as we get closer, because that's
nice.
It's on the way. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening, but that's all from me.
Oh yeah, I'm supposed to do the outro, but that's all from him, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Oh god, now I'm fucking it up. As always, our music is done by our friend Tynan. He is Nytan on Bandcamp. That is Nytan, Nytan. You can find us on our website at homegames.io. Our Twitter is at homegames.io. Or you can email us at podcast@homegames.io to have questions, concerns, comments, feedback, literally anything. Send it to that, and we will read that on the podcast.
That's right.
That's all. That's it.
Yes. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.